Hey, everybody.
Hey, Andrew, how are you today?
Good. How you doing, Rick?
Great, great. Waiting to get at it. Do some Photoshop and Lightroom today.
That's right. So today's Photoshop and Lightroom Magic.
Yes.
Some magic.
Wow.
See, so people are coming in. So let me welcome everybody. Let us know where you're watching from. Don't be shy.
We got both coasts represented today. I'm in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And Andrew, where are you at?
Los Angeles,
All
where it's
right.
been pretty cold lately. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
pretty
we're
cold.
we're sitting at 75 today, and it's going to get up to 80, I think. So
Nice.
I can't
Next
complain.
next week it's going up a little bit, thank God. But it's
Oh,
a
good. Okay.
bit chilly though right now. Yeah, these. Yeah. Let's see. So I got my friend Sucker A.
Prescott. Yeah. Steven, how are you?
Steven, Arizona. Deb from Alaska. Cool.
How's the weather in Alaska? Holy cow.
Maybe warmer than here.
My sisters were both born in Alaska, actually, so
Oh,
that's
really?
cool. Yeah, yeah.
Interesting. Cool.
32 degrees in barbecue, Albuquerque, New Mexico. Ooh.
Nice. Yeah, my friend Barbara. Good to see you
Oh,
here.
hi, Barb.
Sandra's here. Good to see you from Sydney. Great. Hello, everyone. Okay, so real quick before we begin, uh, as I can see here, it says Facebook user. So just a reminder, please give StreamYard permission to show your name and profile pic so I will be able to credit you when you comment or ask questions. Just go underneath the live in the Facebook groups where the description is, scroll down, and then when you see StreamYard.com/Facebook, click that, give permissions, jump on back. Thank you. And Steven says, I was in Florida last week, kind of
Oh,
rainy at
yeah.
times.
We had tornadoes actually that tore up a few things. So yeah, last week was a bit bad, but this week, hey, it's back to Florida. Wait 15 minutes, it's going to be better.
Well, we got so much to go over. So let me share my screen. You can see some portraits and a woman sitting, right,
Hmm.
Rick? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, cool. Okay, so that's Photoshop, but I think I want to start in this folder. Okay, so yeah, so I've been busy with as Rick knows, I've been busy with the AI art and, bringing into Photoshop and playing with that. Um, so in terms of photography, I had to reach out to a couple friends. So I will be giving credit to a couple friends for letting me use their photos. So the first is my friend Ivan Castalto. He's a great photographer as well as a top tier admin in my Photoshop and Lightroom group, which you might be watching from. So this wonderful photo. So he gave me some of his, underexposed type of images. So this first one, CR2, a raw file. I just drag it to my Photoshop icon. Oops, not that. Okay. Did it open up? Let me go back. So yeah, don't hesitate. So you grab it, drag it down to the icon and let go. And then it'll launch Camera Raw. So don't hesitate. Don't showboat people. Okay, so here I am, Camera Raw 16.1. Photo from Ivan. Thank you. And so the first thing is you'll see in the top right, and Camera Raw has a nice histogram, shows you. And the one thing I like about that is as you hover your cursor, and let me zoom in a little bit here, get over there. Okay, so as you hover your cursor, you'll see that it tells you where that is in your image. So blacks, shadows, exposure, highlights, and whites. So that's showing you right there in that histogram the distribution of light distribution through your image. Now technically you could click right into this image, and as you move it around it will start opening up, like say the shadows, but I find that a bit of a clunky way of working, so I tend to go through the panels here on the right. So first one, starts with color, but in this case I think I'm going to jump to light first, and so I'm opening up the overall exposure. And I don't want to blow out the top, the sky. So I might do that to like a plus 0.40. And then the big part that's going to change all this, normally I would go down to, do a little bit of contrast. And then I might pull back highlights to the left to bring some density back into those kind of pink clouds. And then the big work that's going to happen here that'll transform it is opening up the shadows and the blacks. So when I move the shadows to the right, it opens up a certain degree, 33 points. And then I'm going to open up the blacks by going down the black slider and opening that. And then that'll really open it up. So plus almost like 80 there. And then I'll go back to the shadows and open that. So yeah, so that completely changes the photo. So, and then down here, the bottom right, if you click, that's the original. Click again, you get the preview of where you are. And so I noticed that there might be some definition lost in the water. So I'm going to go back and move those highlights back to the left. So minus 65. Let me up that contrast. And then now that I can see the image better, I can go back to the color panel. The temperature is headed towards the cool side. So you can see it's left aligned with the blue. So I can move that a little bit to the right to warm that up, 6750. And then for vibrance will bring saturation to the muted areas, the areas that are lacking in saturation. And I'm more of a fan of vibrance than saturation. It's more,
especially
yeah.
with faces too, right?
Yeah, exactly. And with vibrance, I believe that the vibrance slider, it's built so that it protects the skin tones.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't, like, your face can't become like neon pink.
It had a beat up day.
Right. So I tend to, so plus 25 for vibrance. And sometimes I might do a little bit of saturation, but saturation hits pretty fast. I mean, here's like 40, 50, and the oranges are just unnatural looking. So I'm not the biggest fan. And then, once again, down here is the before and after. So there's some magic. And then what happens is, if you still feel like it needs a bit more contrast, what I tend to do is I go down to the curves. And so can either start with the parametric curve. And now if you work in the parametric curve, you have access to this graph where you can click on any point. So you have your darks, your midtones, and your highlights, your lights. Or you can move these panel sliders. If you want to work directly on just the point curve, you just click that icon and then you can work directly. So I know that I want to pretty much just work on the midtones and then add a little highlight. So I up the highlights, maybe pull down a little bit of the darks again, the shadows, just for a little bit of a bump, just a little contrast bump. And then
can you use the target tool to do that as well? Or
yeah, I'm a fan. I am a fan. So I'll do like a general kind of correction like this, and then I like the target adjustment tool. And then the thing that's interesting is it'll read the image, and then it'll try to target just that specific area. So if I go here, it's kind of reading that tonal range and trying to limit it to that. Cool. It will bleed out. I mean, it's not perfect. It doesn't isolate it perfectly, but it does a pretty good job. And then I think that's pretty good. Like the rest, like color mixer would just be if I wanted to, say, bump up the saturation of specific colors. So I could come here, and as Rick reminded me, the target adjustment tool. So when I choose that in the color mixer and I'm in saturation, I could go to the blues here. And as I pull to the right, it's bringing a subtle saturation to the blues. Now, the thing I love about the target adjustment tool is it can read color better than your eye. Mm-hmm. So you might look in here at first glance, think of this as just blue, but the minute I click and pull, you'll see that both blue and purple sliders were moving. Mm-hmm. And so it can read it better than your eyes. So why not use it? Right?
Cool.
So it's pretty good. And then when I'm done, I just hit open, or if I hit done, it'll just kind of take it back. So I'll say open, and then it brings it into Photoshop. And then,
so if you were to hit done, it would go back to the desktop as having those calculations figured in, but it's still sitting in Bridge or the desktop or wherever you came from.
Right. And then it would just kind of add the changes to that sidecar XMP file.
Gotcha.
As a raw file. Very cool. So I tend to like bring it in. I didn't go over the retouching tools in Lightroom. I find them a bit awkward. So, here I can just go to the spot tool and then just right bracket, make it a little bit bigger. And then I can just go in and clean up some of these spots. And, there's that image. So then I might just, do a PSD and just save it just to have it. So there's that. Okay. So are you always aware of the numbers of your slider? Okay. So someone, Facebook user, it says, are you always aware of the numbers within your slider or just visual? So I've been working, since the 90s. I've been working on images in Photoshop and then Lightroom when that came out. The way I've been working with my workflow is it's more intuitive to the look that I want, but yet I'm very aware of what the numbers are representing. So I tend to, as I showed you when I was in Camera Raw, I tend to just do kind of subtle increments. I never do drastic increments. But the wonderful thing about Camera Raw, which uses the same processing engine as Lightroom, as Rick will show you later today,
Exactly.
is you can double click on the sliders if you overextend and they go back to default or 0. Right, Rick?
Yep. That's it.
Okay. So let me just do a little bit of retouching and then a little bit of fun and then hand it over to you. Okay. So, and then this time around, my friend John Williams has given me this photo. So I asked for some photos that were unretouched. And so it's a portrait photo and zoomed in. And so I just wanted to kind of go over some of the retouching tools that we have here. So as you go down the toolbar, you see the little band-aid with little kind of half semicircle dots. If you right click, you'll see the contextual menu. So there's the spot healing brush. And what I tend to do is, even if I know it's going to be a quick fix, you can see that over here on the right, it says background. That means it's a flattened image. I will just do a simple Command J to jump the layer or, duplicate the layer. And if you hold down on a Mac, Command Option, on a PC, Command Alt J, then this comes up and then you can title it. So I usually just say, retouched and misspell it.
And it's great if you got a client that wants to see before and after, and you can also go back and then unretouch it if you went too far and made them plastic.
Absolutely. And that was what I was about to say. So yeah, it's a great way to be able to. And I always like to work as best non-destructive as possible. So this gives me the option of, if the client were to decide that, oh, I overdid the retouching, well, then I can just kind of, pull back.
There. Yeah.
So if it's a casual retouch, I will create a new layer like this. If it's something extensive, just to let you know, I will create like a new empty layer, and I'll do like say face. And then with that, what I would do is when I go to retouch, I would retouch it so that it would be on top of this empty layer. So I could choose the lowering of opacity for strength, because if I did everything on the face and then I were to lower this layer, then you'd be lowering all the contents, all the definitions, like her eye and her hair. So, but in this case, I'm just going to do a quick one. So I'm on the retouch layer. I'm in the spot healing tool, and just like it sounds, I just left bracket, make the brush a little bit smaller. I can just go in, and as I click and drag, it picks up the texture and the tone from behind and blends it in nicely. So for skin, I love the spot healing tool. And I do want it to be somewhat natural, so I'm going to leave certain areas maybe, but just for the sake of lesson. So yeah, you always follow the form. So I follow the line, the way that the wrinkle moves. So if it's a vertical one, I'm not going to go horizontal. I'm going to go vertical. And then there's some stray hairs. So I'm going to go and just clean them up. And I find this tool to be very addictive, where you could, you start getting into the details. You get, it could be like hours that you just keep on cleaning up, And then the main thing is when you clean up certain like stray hairs and stuff, just make sure that it's blending in. You don't want it to get too mushy. So, if I were to zoom in, it might be a little mushy there. So I might go back in and add texture. But yeah, it does a great job just cleaning up stray hairs, spotting, as the name implies. So it's really good for like that. And so you can go to the retouch layer. You can turn it off. That's before, and then turn on. That's after. So it's a nice kind of quick preview.
Right.
And then just to go through, so they now have the remove tool. And so the remove tool is similar, like the spot, has the same feel. And then you can click and drag. It does this kind of quick highlight, but then it does a really good job at kind of, when you cross over other areas, it doesn't get mushy. It tends to be really clean, where it cleans something up altogether.
So it's actually kind of a generative fill. It's an AI kind of thing, as opposed to just a regular brush. Yeah.
Right. And I think it goes up to the cloud. That's why
It takes a
sometimes when you do it, it takes a little time. You see a little timer, but it's, yeah. And once again, they're going to be incorporating AI aspects into Photoshop and Lightroom, et cetera, other apps more and more. So, but yeah, it's a pretty good one. And that's just a kind of a taste of that. So I might use it for this kind of over highlight, bring that down. And then, so the healing brush, now the healing brush I don't tend to use as much, because with that one, the spot works just fine, where I click and I either spot or click and drag. And then with this one, when you click, you get this. So it's reminding you that for this one, you have to, for the healing brush, you have to option click first. So I just figure, why add one more step when I could just use the spot healing brush? So for this one, I got to do option click, then go here. And then if I go to another area where the tonal range is different, I'm gonna have to do another option click for the source point and then drag. So it's kind of similar to the clone tool, where you have to option click first. So when it comes to the healing brushes, I tend to choose spot. And then just to let you know, patch tool is great for, let's see if well, say I wanted to get rid of her earring. Patch tool is really great for selecting a large area. So I can go and I can select the whole vertical of her earring, and then I can drag it over to a darker area, and then it just kind of reads it and fills. And I'm not too concerned about like little strays. I can always then jump over to the next tool I want to show you, which is the clone tool, where I can go and option click and then go around her ear, so it looks more natural, the shape, and then any stray areas and clean up. So yeah, the way that the clone tool works, and it's more, the clone tool I would say is better for adding areas that are solid. So like if I wanted to, I don't know, extend her eyebrow, once you click it though, or once you choose it, you should always check your options bar. So the opacity is 100 and then the flow is 100. So I don't want the flow to be like 20 or something. I want it to be realistic. So if I go here, I can then add elements. It's not the best. I'd probably take more time, maybe a smaller brush, and build up, but it's really good for solid areas. So if I wanted this brown to take over that highlight, I can then go over that area. And another good example is if I option click here, I can use that same hair area to build it up around there. So the eyelash, I can build the eyelashes to another area just by option clicking the one source point.
So the option says the source of texture and color is here, and I want to put it over there. So you're
Right, but
getting
more
an exact match, huh?
right, but more than source and texture, it's more like source. So like
Mhm.
if you're using the spot healing, that is really, let me go back.
Just blending.
That is really kind of reading the texture and of the image behind. And so when you click and drag, it's really kind of integrating and adding that texture.
Mhm.
Whereas the clone tool is just mimicking reality. So I'll do something crazy just to show you what I mean. So once again, opacity is 100, flow is 100. So if I do a large brush and I do option click, I can give her a third eye. And see, what I'm saying is that it's more like where you can distribute very solid areas. It's very realistic. So let's zoom out, third eye,
There you go.
and
She's
then
meditating.
no offense, so I'll take it away. There we go. But yeah, so different thing. But that is Photoshop magic, right? A quick third
Awesome. Yeah,
eye.
there you go.
Great. Okay. So yeah. So just bottom line is, I would say for retouching, just experiment with the different tools. But I'm a big fan of spotting for cleaning up, wrinkles, acne, little spots, just like the name implies. Remove tool is great for like stray hairs and removing something and kind of like retouching behind it using the AI. Healing brush, like I said, I stray away, use the spot healing more. Patch tool is for solid areas. Um, a content aware move tool, I don't think I have any elements, but I'll just kind of show it just to go over it. But if I go to content aware move tool, this is where you can make a selection of a subject, and as you move it, say I wanted to just have the button to be up here. I move it up there, and then when I hit enter return, what it does is it magically will move that, and then it automatically retouches the original space that it came from. So that's pretty cool. And I would just do like Command H or D to get rid of that marching ants. But I don't really want to do that. I just wanted to show that. So that's content aware move tool. So where that might be perfect though is if you have a landscape with a couple trees and you want to move one tree from say the right side to the left, and then have it automatically retouch that area behind.
I kind of forgot that tool was there. So you could actually add another button if you use the option key and dragged, or no?
So let me try that. So normally it's meant to just be, to move it and then it kind of retouches it for you. But
Right.
if I hold the option key, see if I hold the option key,
It's
it
not.
thinks I want to subtract from the
Okay.
selection.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really just for this kind of thing. And then you hit enter return and then boom, there it is. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
Pretty good though. I mean, it's pretty
Yeah.
fast. Yeah.
And
So
it
yeah,
blends in with the background nicely too.
yeah, exactly. It does a nice retouch. They're making it easier and easier. It was not this easy for us back in the day, right, Rick? I mean,
Back and 2 floppy disks for Photoshop and a black and white pixels only.
was
Yeah.
it like 12 floppy disks to install Photoshop? Okay, so yeah, so that's retouching, and then before that was tonal correction, color correction, and then now for more kind of the AI sensibilities, more generative AI functions. So here we have, I've already done it just to check, and it was successful, but I'm pretty happy with how easy it is nowadays for this. So back in the day, so me and Rick get to romanticize back in the day of all the hard work we did.
Back in our day.
Back in our day, we would have to get like the clone tool and just, grab these elements of the background, retouch a bit over here, grab some of the sky, retouch over there, keep building, keep building, keep building, grab parts of this stone kind of ledge and move it over, retouch it again, make sure that the buildings kind of are retouched in front of it. A lot of work. Nowadays, you can just go to the lasso tool. You make a somewhat loose selection because you want to have, the background elements. Why is it doing that? Okay, so you want to have some background elements so it can read the information. And so it's somewhat loose. And I go around. Oops. I don't know why I did that. I can erase that though. And I just go around her and her purse, go up. And I don't really need this part, so I'm just going to do option. And when I do option, you'll see that the minus sign comes up. So I can just, with the lasso tool, just get rid of an extra thing. I don't think it would affect it so much, but just to keep it somewhat clean, I'll do that as the select. So with that as the selection, there is my contextual task bar. I click on generative fill. It asks, what would you like to generate? So in this case, I don't want to say, I could say, Empire State Building or something like that, but I wanted to just do a retouch, a cleanup. So when you want to have it remove something, you do not type in a prompt, and then you just go over to the right, you hit generate, shows you the preview bar up top, telling you to avoid using instructions like add, fill, make, change. And then what happens is you get this really great
magic
retouch. Yeah, you get magic. You get Photoshop magic. And then what happens is the properties panel pops up. And if it wasn't wonderful enough with that magic, it gives you 3 options. So here you can see in the variations, that's the first one. The second one I can click, That's pretty successful too. I like the,
Yeah, that's better. Yeah.
yeah. And then the third one, that's pretty good too. I even think the third
Mm.
one might even be most realistic on the ledge.
Yeah.
They're all pretty good. Right.
Now, if you save this Photoshop document with all the layers, all of your generations are going to be there, right? It'll create a bigger file, though. I'm assuming, yes.
Right. And then as you can see over here, so let me kind of zoom over, is the generative fill layer that it creates. So the wonderful thing is you can turn it on, turn it off. Let me zoom back out. So I can turn it on, turn it off so you can see before and after.
Mm.
It's its own layer, so it's not just taking over that. So if I change my mind or something, and then you'll see that it has a built-in layer mask. So the built-in layer mask is showing you that's the selection. So the black is kind of taken away. The white is, well, the white is the area that it focused on.
Right.
But you could expand it, bring back some elements, I guess. But it's quite nice to have that all built in. And, it took me, was it 30 seconds after I
Mhm.
made the simple selection?
Sweet.
That's quite nice. And then, just to add to the Photoshop magic, what type of bird should I have in the sky? Maybe an eagle?
Sure. Why not?
So now here's something that Rick might know. So with generative fill, when you work on it, you can be anywhere. Like you can be on the generative fill layer, or you can go back to the background layer. And
Right.
then when you make a new selection and say eagle, it doesn't matter. Correct, Rick?
No, it'll just go above the layer that you're currently active on.
Right.
So, if you were to do it down where that marching ants is right now,
Yeah.
then it would be putting it underneath that. So if
Now that's kind of weird. Is that when I clicked on the background
yeah,
layer, it
activated it.
selected it. Yeah. So maybe I'll just start with the generative fill to make sure it's on top.
Yeah.
Okay. So I zoom out so you can see the whole image. And so there's a lot of sky there. Right. So first I'm going to do something realistic, and I'm going to do something imaginary, creative, silly, whatever. Okay. So first is, let's see. I'll just say American Eagle. And I don't think as they say in some of the guidance when you go to do these prompts, you don't have to say like in flight or in the sky or anything.
Mhm.
You just, it knows by the selection, it'll read the area around it. So I just say American Eagle. I hit generate. You can see the preview. Now it does say for more precise control, you can try drawing your section in the shape that you want to generate.
Ah,
So
okay.
that's good.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, it's not bad, right? It's a little. The
Uh,
white is a little bright for the kind of foggy looking sky, but
yeah.
yeah, and it's pretty good. Now the only thing that you have to remember is you do get 3 variations, and then once you have this, do remember that if you're in that layer and you choose a move tool, you can't just click on it and move it, because you'll notice that immediately
Mm,
it's picking up also the background.
it's got a
So the
blend.
background is darker, especially if I bring it down here, you'll see.
Gotcha.
But if I bring it up further here where it blends, it's not so bad. It's just like in a different area.
Mm.
And in that case, you could um, just command click to make that selection again. And then you could type in American Eagle again. So it'll regenerate it to that
Oh, okay.
moved area.
Okay.
Or what you can do is you can just keep this layer, click on the layer mask, and then with a brush, you just do that. Don't just tell you, I will do that. Move the flow back up to say 90 or 100, set to black as foreground. I can then go in, because the layer mask is selected on the right.
There you go.
I can go in and I'm like losing my brush. There it is. I can just paint away that edge. And if I wanted to get really detailed, I could zoom in, choose a smaller brush, of course, and then just go in and do my best to
So what you're saying that I didn't really read that before. So you could make it profile of it by changing the shape of your outline when you make that first selection, huh? As opposed to coming at you the way this turned out.
Well, I think what happened was when I clicked on the background, it automatically, let me zoom out here. It automatically silhouetted it again, even though it's kind of strange because I clicked on the background copy, not this. Like if you do command click here, you'll get that selection. but I was surprised that when I clicked here, it created it somehow. I don't know. But yeah, so I mean, it's simple cleanup work. I mean, you got to do some work nowadays, people. I mean, you can't have generative AI do everything. But,
Yeah, we'll be out of business. We can't help you out with any of these things.
right. But yeah, so so that's that. And then real quick before I hand it over to Rick is, I'm going to turn off the American Eagle and then go from a nice kind of traditional photo to something absurd, which we all love. So let's see. Let's see. That's large enough, I think, right?
There you go. I think I know
Fiery dragon.
Oh.
Can we bring a dragon into this? What is this? A Manhattan skyline here?
Yeah, I have no idea.
Generating pretty fast, though, right? I mean,
It's incredible. It's like, maybe a minute at most each time I've been doing it. I haven't had. Oh, there you go.
yeah. So it's a little cartoony, but it's still
Yeah.
fun. There's that one. That one kind of looks like Mothra or something. Right. And then if I didn't like that, here in the properties panel, I can just hit generate again. It generates. But it is pretty quick. In general, I think you get quick results, but do be aware I'm on an M1 Max Studio. I think I've got like 60 or 65 gigs of memory.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
now these got really abstract. So they're getting more kind of painterly, and this
yeah.
kind of looks like a turkey going wrong or
Going
something.
backwards, something.
Yeah. This one's on fire.
Yeah, he had a bad taco, I think.
And so if I'm in that layer and I do say Command T and I've resized, do be aware that you will immediately see, and I can change the rotation, of course, and the size, but you will see that kind of background elements where if I had the time, I could just click on that layer mask, choose a brush, and with black as the foreground color, I could just clean it up, which I don't mind. Another thing you can do, I just thought of that is probably even faster though. I do multiple Command Z's to go back. If I go to the magic wand and I click around and I hold shift click, I can select around.
Right.
I think that one might have overreached a bit. Let me zoom in a little bit. No, it's still good. So I can go. So holding shift, I can click again. And then I'm a big fan of quick mass. So I hit Q and I can see how good that worked.
Okay.
Nice little quick preview. I don't need these other sections, but I'm just for the sake of keeping it clean, I'm just going to click that. So basically the whole background and around the creature, because I'm not sure what it is, it's good. So now you just got to make sure that like if I'm here, right, I'm in that layer. So I could choose that background layer. Do make sure that you go back and click, and let me zoom in. 8. Make sure you click on the layer mask. So you want the layer mask itself to have the white frame around it. So then when the layer mask is selected, I can just delete. But what I tend to do is I will choose the marquee, hover, and I will say feather and do a 0.8 or 1 for just a slight feather on the edge. And then with black as my foreground, I'll just do a option delete to fill with black, and it's nice and clean. Command D, zoom out, Command minus a few times, and there you have that very realistic turkey dragon.
Happy Thanksgiving.
So there's some Photoshop magic there, and now Rick's turn to have fun with a little Photoshop and some Lightroom too.
All right. So I'm going to do just one really quick thing in Photoshop just for fun. I saw this on the internet and just thought, oh my God, I got to learn how to do that. So this is the original picture, and I'm going to show you later how I got it from that to this in Lightroom. But to start with, this is Photoshop, and I'm just going to take this little guy. And if I were to go, I'm going to duplicate this again, just the same way that that he did with the Command J. And now I want to go down here to select all this. And if I did, and I hit generative fill, and I put in oil painting, what's going to happen is it's going to affect the entire picture, and it's going to replace it, instead of with the picture of the girl, it's going to replace it with an oil painting. Not of the girl, however. So let's take a look.
That's too bad that it can't
right?
Do that though.
So
Yeah.
there it does, and that's perfectly fine if that's what you wanted, but what I want is not that, okay? So I'm gonna go back in here, I'm gonna turn that layer off, and what I'm gonna do instead is I'm gonna click on this layer, make sure it's not locked at the time, hit the
Okay.
letter Q, and what Q does is it put quick mask on. So you can see it over here to the left at the bottom left.
So you're a fan as well of quick mask.
Yes. In this case, it's a real short way to do this. Just FYI, I'm going to put a, like I always have, put a PDF together with this. So when I did this, I had to go back and watch the video 4 times before I finally got the sequence of events. And here's the sequence. You
Okay.
first hit Q, that loads up the quick mask. You then click on this and you pick like a medium gray if you want kind of it to affect 50% of the image.
Okay.
And you hit Q again, which creates, I always have to do this a couple of times here. Got to do it again. Yep, I did. I messed up one more time. Let me try this one more time. Q, change the color, hit Option Delete. There we go. That's what I didn't do. So you hit Q to get into the quick mask mode. Option
Okay.
Delete basically set the color to 50% gray. And then if I hit Q again, now I have an active selection and it shows up now. In fact, when you know it works, when it says generative fill. When you put generative fill there, you say oil painting, right? And then we hit generate. So what it's doing is 50% of the photograph is being created as an oil painting. Ooh, and that went pretty far on it, right? So because the amount of gray that you give it, let me get this thing right here. The amount of gray that you give it is basically going to generate. Let's take a look at the different versions it gave me. There's one version that's also a little bit extra. So that's with oil painting. I could do it with thin stroke oil painting, but the fact that I chose if you take a look here, a light gray, if I go back and I say instead, I'm going to put it to a darker gray, then I would have less effect of this. So I'm going to try this one more time.
Be great if in the future they gave us the option to somehow have, I don't know, like a sub panel connected to this contextual taskbar.
So you could set, you could set
So you
your
could say
actual,
oil painting and then choose subjects. So it
that's
like
it. So now I
keeps
could go here and I could say, let's change the opacity down. It gets this little mixture, but no, I really don't want to do that. Here's what I want to go do. So I'm going to actually take this off for a second, go back to the original and do it one more time. So I'm going to hit Q. I'm going to hit change the color to a darker gray. Then I'm going to hit Option Delete. That's filling it. You can see it's a brighter red now, right?
right.
Hit Q again. Now I get the generative fill, and I'm going to say oil painting. And let's see what happens now. So when I use a light gray color, it overwhelms it with an oil painting. When I use a dark gray color, I'm basically masking it off, and you can see you get a little bit more
Yeah, more
subtle
of the
result,
true
right?
figure, right?
So what I've done, and with this, I could do a couple of things. So I can go back. So this is the one I just created here. I can do 2 things. One, I could change the opacity down just a little bit. 2, I can go on this mask and with the
Layer mask.
brush tool, B, right? And I'm going to set the opacity to like 50%. I can start to, got to paint with black, right?
That's right.
And I paint on the mask with black, and I could bring it back in exactly where I want.
Nice. Yeah, it's a nice mix of the two, kind of like
Right? So you
realism
don't get
and then the texture.
too far. And of course, you can keep on generating it. So I went ahead and did this just to kind of show you what I could get. This is an oil painting I did a little bit earlier. And then we've got this one. This is watercolor. And by just going in there and revealing some of the face, you can easily come in here and lightly do the face. So it just does a little bit on the face. Or you can make it go completely back to its original state. So that's a real quick mask way to do it. So let me walk through the steps one more time. Hit the letter Q, that activates the quick mask tool. If you want to do a lot of oil painting, set it to a light gray for your color. Option Delete fills it with the dark or the light gray color. And then hit generate and type in what you want. You could do the same with watercolor. You could say mosaic, tile mosaic. I mean, the possibilities truly are really fantastic. But the trick is, instead of just running it, because all you're going to get is this, right? you run it, and then you decide, which part you want, and then you can reveal it. Cool.
Yeah, cool effect. Yeah.
And I'll be putting in the PDF that's downloadable once this is archived in both of our YouTube channels and stuff. We're going to have that capability there. All right. So the first thing I want to say about Lightroom is when Andrew was using the Camera Raw tool, basically every one of those effects and things like that are the develop module right over here to your right. They're identical. In fact, they get updated at the exact same way and same time with all of these capabilities and really powerful ones. So let me just talk about for a minute here. Let's talk about taking an image like this one. Then you've got this image here, and you've got this one. They had that giant cruise ship just came into Miami. It's the world's largest cruise ship ever, I
It
guess.
does look
Right?
pretty huge.
Yeah, it definitely is.
How
And
many
what I
people does it hold?
Oh God, I don't even know, but it's one of my friends is going on it for the first inaugural fight, so we'll see what happens here, right? So you've got some capabilities to do stuff with this, including the ability to do some extra stuff. So we can create a new folder, we can photo merge is what we're going to do. So the first one I'm going to do is I've selected all three of those photographs that were separately taken. This is the Island Princess, and we went on the inaugural thing of that, and I want to make a panorama. So all I do is sit back and I say, oh, yeah, I want a panorama. I want to have it projected. And you notice that in the corners, there's sort of a bent frame because it's got to blend these together. And they weren't aligned. I literally just went bang, bang, bang with a point and shoot camera. And so I can ask it to fill the edges. Now
Nice.
it's filled in all those edges where that happened. I hit merge and bingo, it goes out, creates it. You can see it takes a couple of seconds. You could do this with 60 pictures where you go left to right and up and down, and it will figure out in which sequence order these should actually be made. And the result is this little guy.
Pretty
There's the
solid,
whole
yeah.
thing. And if you go zooming into it, oops, I hit something wrong there. If you go zooming into it, you can see down to the first passengers on board. Okay.
Right, so there's no, like, weird distortion where the different
No,
areas are meeting.
in fact, just the opposite. There's no distortion, and that's what's kind of what awesome about the whole thing, right? So it makes sure it blends. All right, so let's try HDR. If you're not familiar with what HDR is, it's when you take 3 different pictures or 5 or 7, each at a different exposure. So you can see this is exposed for the sky, but this is fireworks, Empire State Building, New York City. This is the sky looks good, and this second one, the midground looks good, and then the third one, the shadows in the foreground look good. Pay attention specifically to this guy down here. You see moving in this frame, and then when you take a look at this previous frame, that guy's not there, and there's some other people there, etc. So what I'm going to do is the exact same thing I just did. I'm going to go 1, 2, 3. I'm going to select with the Shift key held down all 3 of those pictures. Then I'm going to go up to the photo merge. And guess what? This is the same thing. Now, I'm not going to demonstrate this today, but HDR panorama means that you have pictures where you set your camera not only to take multiple exposures, but as you're doing a panorama. So you go click, 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 and it does 3 overexposed, underexposed, like an HDR. Then you move your frame over, you do click, 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 click. You get 90 pictures together. Oh my gosh, this can be incredible, right? But what we're going to do here is get the highlights, high dynamic range. When you saw Andrew's histogram earlier, right? You got the picture he started off with was a very dark picture. We call it a low key picture. This is a low key picture. Your camera can only capture so much in the darks and the lights and the midtones. And we need to push that together so it physically can see all of this at once. So when I hit HDR, I get the same sort of thing, and it kind of shows me what it's going to do. And I can pick a high amount of HDR, a low amount, and I can also show deghosting right here. You see those little red marks? It's hard to see. Those were people that moved during the different exposures. And up in the sky, you might notice there's a few places where the sky moved. The actual clouds were moving, even though it was pretty quick that I did that. I'm going to turn that off, and I'm going to go to the high amount, and I'm going to hit merge. And so I sit back, and this is kind of an automated little process. Next thing I know, there's the picture. It's got the highlights, it's got the shadows, and then I can go in here and I can bring down some of the shadows.
Nice. Yeah.
Maybe I want the highlights really to come down. In fact, I want to increase the clarity, maybe a little more vibrance, and it's actually done this for me. You can see
Nice.
these sliders are not at default at all. I want to warm up the temperature a little bit. And I also might want to bring down the contrast more. And then if I don't get enough highlight that I really wanted to get, I come down here to the tonal curve. Oops, so not the tonal curve, excuse me. Oh, there we go, tonal curve. And I'm going to take the highlights down even a little bit more. So I can go and adjust it, and I just did a little easy bake oven version of it here. And not only that, but I went down later in this particular example that I did after I've done some changes. I went down to the lens correction, and I went down to some transform, so I can actually move this around so the lines in the picture will be like architecture should look, parallel. You notice at the bottom of the picture, this thing has, oops, excuse me. The people that were moving have been eliminated. So you got a nice clear picture of everything else here.
Nice.
Pretty cool, huh? All right. So let's go do something completely
Before
different.
you jump, I was going to say,
Yeah.
and then where you are now, let people know that all you need to do is click on constrain crop, and it gets rid of the white areas.
Exactly, exactly. So you go to the
There
crop
is a
tool.
button.
Now, what I would do in this actual case myself is go over to Photoshop, do the generative fill to fill in these areas. And then I would probably expand it because I want some more sidewalk and I want a little more headroom for the Empire State Building to be there.
Yeah, it is a little tight at the top, right?
Yeah, there's some stuff that, Lightroom can't do, and you have
Nice,
to go back and
nice
forth,
range of colors you got there in the sky, though, right? You got the
right?
blues and
And I
purples
couldn't
going
get
into
it.
the
Now you can do this in Photoshop, but this is a whole lot easier here. And then I go edit, and then I go choose Photoshop. Bingo, I'm go back there. Now, when you edit in Photoshop, it's going to ask you how you want to send it over there. There it is, right? So all I got to do here is just go to crop, and actually, you know what I should do is I should probably I'm going to crop in to get rid of that first, and then I'm going to then select it all. Oops. Generative expand is set. So I'm going to give some more headroom up there. And then I want to give some more headroom down there. Let's see if this.
generative expand.
Yeah. So this allows me to get those three same variations. Now, what I do find it's extremely good at, if it has something to guidepost it by, sky, super easy. Ooh, that's not bad. Now, there's stuff there that if I take a look at what it actually created at the bottom, the sky is perfect, right? But if I look at what it generated here, I'm not sure what the heck that is. There's
The
number
buildings
2.
look solid, though, on the left, right? It's just the
Yeah, yeah.
weirdness of
So that's some car accident that happened that I definitely don't want. That's a little bit better. So the bottom, it didn't do so good. The top, however, spectacular. No
yeah.
problems. And if I went to the left or the right, you could sit in there work on it. What I do find it's true, this is a 100 megabyte file at this point. Realize that every time Photoshop generates, it's generating about 1 or 2 megabytes at a time at most. So I just ask it to generate another 50 megabytes of content, right? So that's why sometimes it's not going to look so great. And then I'll go through and I'll just kind of delete the ones I know that are bad. And then I can go back and I can take the part that I like. So I usually go then and I Command E to put it down. And then I might come down here and see if I can get just in this area where there's some funkiness, just go ahead and see if I can redo that. And when I hit generative fill now with nothing generated, I can get it to maybe clean up the mess that's there, or just go in there with a nice clone stamp tool and fix the problem. Got it? Cool. I'm gonna let
Should
it.
work fine with the generative fill, though.
Yeah. So it's just making sidewalk. That's beautiful for me,
Yeah.
right? All right. So let me go back over to Lightroom. Now here for some really cool stuff. And we're going to start with, actually, I'm going to start with the picture that, I'm going to take it off this mode. So I'm in the develop module, just so you know. So you come in the library, you bring the stuff in, then you get over here. This is where you got all the stuff that's identical, however, to Camera Raw. So you've got things like the ability to come in here and retouch her face a little bit. So I can go, I don't know why it's zipping around here on me. I can come in here and I see that there's this problem on her face, and I could come in here and just kind of fill that in area. You've got the ability to do 3 different types of choices here. And the one I'm using is the same stamp tool that he used. I mean, the same
Like spot
fill
healing. Yeah.
spot healing, excuse me, that he used a minute ago. And I get that done. But then here's where it gets really cool. I'm going to put this fit in window. You can come up here to the masking tools, and I'm telling you, this is the best thing since sliced bread. First of all, I'm going to say, hey, automatically detect the background for me. Boom, there it is.
Nice.
It shows you that quick mask in red right away. Over here, all of a sudden, now you're operating on exposures that make that darker. And what if you want to make the background nice blue? Wow, look at how cool that is. Or you want a warm tone. Nice. All right, that's kind of cool. I can pump up the saturation. All right, so what else can I do? I can actually go select the subject. Why not? So I'm just going to warm up the temperature on the subject just a little bit so it looks like real skin tone. Now here's the real magic. Check this out. I want it to select the people. Oh, okay. There's the person. Uh-oh. Not only can I do that, I can get the facial skin, the body skin. That would be the hands and everything, right? I can come on down and do the eyebrows, the eye sclera, and the pupil. My sister's and the teeth. Oh my goodness! If you, I don't have any teeth showing here, but if I did, right? Hair and clothes. Okay, what it's going to do is create 8 separate masks. So I'm going to say create. Look at this. All right. So let's start with the first one here. And it doesn't name them right, but if you
I was
click
gonna say that's the only bad thing is it doesn't name it to what it is.
yeah, if you click on them, you can actually see. So there's body skin.
Right.
So I have a tendency to sometimes just so this is body skin, right? So if you want to but you just click on it, it tells you what it is. So it just pops down. There's the eyebrows. So I know that the one thing I want to do is start with the face. And so I'm going to go and just warm up the temperature slightly. And I'm going to, yeah, that looks good. Now her neck is messed up, right? So let's go find where her neck is. That's eyebrows, eye sclera, pupil, lips. Okay, why don't we do the lips a little bit? We'll warm that up a tiny bit. We could actually go in there and adjust the saturation. It's going to take the natural color and pump it up a little bit. I don't want to get too crazy. This is an underage woman here. And then I can come up here and I can look at the hair. Okay, what can I do with that? I could do anything I want, really. So I think that's kind of fun. My daughter would love this hair
The
color.
Billie Eilish or something.
Right, right. So I can go down there and I can make effects to texture enhancement. I can make it a little bit more soft, clarity. So all the tools that you have everywhere else, guess what? These are now available. Oh, there we go. We can really age her quite a bit. All right. And then I can add detail and sharpness. And technically with hair, I want to keep it looking like hair, but I want to soften it a slight bit. All right. So what else do we got? We got the dress.
The auto masking is great. The way it breaks it
And
down.
it's so good at it, right? Because this is insane for me to try to do this. Okay, that dress right now is kind of a non-color. But what if it was the same color as her hair? And I could go in there and find, this is a new tool that we'll talk about a little bit later, but I can go into a specific area. It seems to have difficulty with while you're doing the masks, but if you're doing the whole picture, it does it pretty well. At any point that I don't like what I've done, I could go back to any of these mask presets and go ahead and change them back. Let's see what else we have. I think it's the body skin that I needed to affect, right? Because I did change her skin. I need to make sure that I am doing the same effect on the body skin. So I'm going to warm it up a little bit. Ooh, not too much. I'm going to take that exposure down a slight bit so her face becomes the big thing. I'm going to go back to her face and warm it just a tiny. There we go. So it matches better the skin. And there we go. Now, before I did this, just so you know, so I'm going to get out of this mode of masking and I'm going to go back to the main mode, which is your basic overview of everything you're doing with the picture. So overall, I can change the color of this, and I can also take the saturation down if I got too crazy. And there we got a little bit more subtle version of what I was trying to do. If I go up with the vibrance, you can see vibrance even will throw away, kind of mess up your colors of your face. But if you do this, it really messes it up. So we were talking about before, vibrance is good when you have skin tones to protect, to get a little bit up without losing it totally, but you do want to back off on that. If you go too far, it can get dangerous, but not as bad as saturation. So for skin tones in mind, now the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take a look at this little thing over here to the left. Do you see history over here?
Mhm.
So this is everything we just did on this picture. So the difference between, in fact, that's what it looked like when we brought it in. And then we did this and we healed it. And then we went up here, we did this. You see, as I'm rolling it, it's actually updating the image. And what I did before I actually created this image is I'll go back here and show you how you could do it right now, is I'm going to right click on this and I'm going to create what do you call it? A clone. I always forget.
Preset or something?
No, it's a duplicate copy. Create a virtual copy. My apologies. Create a virtual copy. What's cool about that is the original picture has all this history. So I'm going to go to the original picture as I worked on it, and there it is. Right next to it, there's the version with nothing. Right? So basically, these can be stacked. Oops.
Yeah, you tried to pull it.
Yeah, right. So this is the one I did earlier, and this is the one I did just now. And here's the original coming in the door.
Nice variety, yeah.
Cool. Yeah. All right, let's skip on over. We could do the same thing. I'll show you what I did with this one. Basically, I selected the face. Now I could come in here and I'll just easy bake oven it for you a little bit. And that's what I've done so far. Now,
is that a technical term?
Yeah, easy bake oven. Yeah.
I'm going to easy bake oven it.
Yeah, easy bake oven. It's a Julia Child's technique. You just kind of pre-do all this kind of stuff. And I did that here with this one as well. So here's the first one, and there's the back one. Now I could go in there, and I would probably. In fact, why don't I do that right now? There are things about it I don't like. So you could see that I selected the background, shifted the color, darkened it up, and did a bunch of stuff. I even blurred it a little bit. And then I came over here and I did the face as well, warmed up the tones. So a cool background makes warm colors pop out at you, right? So now we're at this point. Well, what if we go in and take advantage of some of these other masks that we saw before? And that is, let's select the person. It's going to detect who this person is. And here's the cool thing. It can do 10, 20 people if you want to. And you can set this as a preset. I'll show you that in a minute, which is really awesome. So what that does, so eyes, is it the pupil? I always forget if it's the pupil or the iris. I want to change the color of her eyes. Let's see what happens here. Let's see what I think. Let me turn off sclera. Yeah, okay, that's what we want. Iris and pupil. So I'm just
turning into a vampire now.
I know, right? Yeah, so I'm gonna go here and I'm just gonna give her some really gorgeous deep blue eyes. Bingo! How cool is that? Now, if I want to go back to the person thing again, I could select people. I should have just done all of these while I'm at it, right? She's got a little bit of teeth showing, some lips, eyebrows. Ooh, they could be thickened up a tiny bit. You got body skin, facial skin. All right, let's do that. And let's do hair too. Why not? Clothes. Let's do the whole thing. It's all free, right? Okay, so let's take a look at her hair. I'm going to zoom back just a little bit. And now we're going to go take a look at her hair. And we can get that sort of cool blue look to it. Ooh, that's nice. Okay. Ooh, I need to change the color of her jacket.
I think you've been influenced by like Marvel movies,
right? Right? I mean, so she's a Marvel character now. All right. So let's see. Where did I go with the shirt? Oh, there it is. Okay. The jacket is the wrong color, right? Especially for all that going on. Let's go to that whole blue thing. And then I, of course, could take the color down. I could take the highlights down, and I could come down here and play around with it even more with the shadows and the clarity and make it a little bit out of focus, drawing the attention up to her eyes. All right, so we got somewhere in there. Got to figure out what it is. The eyes and pupils. Okay, is this the lips? There we go, the lips. All right, so we're going to add sometimes a little bit of texture helps the lips pop, especially to give you that gloss. I spent 10 years with Makeup Academy photographing people there. And I do Photoshop makeup using just Photoshop, so they don't have to put makeup on at all. And of course, they hated me because that's what they're training them how to do is to do makeup. Right. So I was taking their jobs away from them. And we could switch the color again to match her eyes and everything else by just introducing just a little bit of that. There you go. Okay. And then if I hit F, there you go.
Cool.
And we can take a look at the history because we have the original before and after. Let's see if I can put them side by side here. Why is that not showing up here? There should be a little button there that says before and after. What am I doing wrong here, Andrew?
Yeah, I forgot what the shortcut key is for it, but there's a shortcut where you like a compare view.
Yeah.
It's C. If you just press C, do you get compare view or something?
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, select a
I can
candidate.
also zoom into them, right? Oops, nope, that's not it. C for compare. And you can see the difference between the two.
Cool.
Pretty cool, huh?
Very cool.
All right. Let me take a look at one more thing. And in fact, if we get some time, just hit C again to get rid of that. That's nice.
Yep.
Okay. Here's a nice photograph. And it already has an out of focus background, but we've got a new tool in here in the develop module. If you slide down, it's an early access tool that you do have access to it now. It came out of beta recently. And what it does is it allows you to set blur to the image based on a depth map. Okay, let's see what that means because that doesn't sound like words that most of you know already, right? A depth map? What the heck is that? So let me just kind of show you real quickly here. Well, watch and take a look at over here and over there, and I'm going to be coming in here. And you see right here, this is a depth map. And what it's doing is in the center of the thing that's in focus is this person, right? So when I go here and I say, oops, sorry. Let me go back one more time. All right. So when I turn this on, you can see there is the background in focus, out of focus. Let me boost this up. And then let me narrow the field of view. So if you want to see what a depth map is, take a look at this. There it is. So the things that are the darkest, brightest colors are going to be in focus. And you can see there's the range of different objects. So if I go across it, I want to get her to be there. And I really want the focus of attention to be on her being in focus. And I want everything else. You can see what a nice mask it made. That means stuff back here is going to be entirely out of focus. So when I turn that off, then you can see that it is out of focus. I see what's going on here
so now you don't need certain lenses anymore, right? So.
Right. So that gives me the ability, and then I happen to go in here. So I took this image and let me I forget how you unleak these guys. I don't spend as much time in here now that I've been kind of crazy doing AI stuff, right?
I know it's become a new obsession for us.
Right. Yeah. Unstack. Yeah, there you go. Unstack. So you can see here's before. Oop, nope, that's after. Oh, I need to go back in history on this guy to the imported picture. And it's not going back. It's taking a little while. Where did it go? Somehow it's still.
I have to create a collection of just the images you work on for these lives.
Right. But the basic idea is that you could take any picture and make the background out of focus very simply like that. Let me go back to this picture over here that we've got, and I'll do a quick another. You know what? I'm going to make a challenge here. Yeah, let me use this picture. There we go. Let me apply this. So it's going to analyze it. It's going to say that this is the person, and I'm going to be able to make that background even more and more out of focus. Now, what it is here is lenses, depending on the hole where the aperture is, the shape of it, will produce different types of out of focus area. So somehow it's not seem to be really doing a lot here. I'm going to get it to focus more on this area here. There we go. Let me visualize where that is. That looks pretty good. And I'm going to basically wean it in a little bit more so it's more and more focused on her. And there we go. So this depth map is letting you visualize what's about to happen to this picture. When you turn it off, it should go back to, yeah, there we go. So this is the new picture. So when you go do that, you can set out of focus areas. And I'm going to do it with this one just to show you there's nothing up my sleeve, right? And I'm going to unstack these guys since I learned about that from last time doing it, right? So there's the original, and this is what I'm going to do to it, right? So I'm going to take the background. Now in this photograph and other ones, the background's already out of focus. In fact, let me take this one because this was probably a little bit out of focus, but not so much. So let me take that and use this to make kind of to demo this perhaps a little bit better. Now you're seeing the background get out of focus on you. There we go. And then we could change the type of background out of focus part. So this is the shape of the iris of the camera if you actually used a camera to do this. Depth of field is your f2.0 is a very shallow depth of field, which is probably what this is. And that means the background's out of focus. Now, if you're using your iPhone, right, or any phone, right, it has a portrait mode. You know what that is? It's basically faking this capability. It's making a mask of the person you're photographing, and that makes the background out of focus. Why? Because the sensor of your phones are so small that the whole picture's in focus all the time. So this is a fantastic tool to have access to because then you can separate that background and foreground. Then you can come over here to mask it, and I can mask the subject. Okay, what am I going to do with that? I'm going to warm up the color temperature a little bit on it, right? And then I'm going to go back here and create a new mask just of the background. If it were a sky, I would pick sky, but for most cases, you could actually do that. So let's make her pop, and let's make that background a little bit more blue. I don't want to go too crazy with it. I'm going to get a little bit more of the blue tint, and perhaps I take the highlights down. And I could even come down here if I want to and take the texture out of the background. Now, when you go blur the background too much, you get this really funky effect. And so here's what you do. This is a little trick. Don't tell anybody I told you this because it's a extra thing, right?
Extra magical.
Extra magical. I go down to effects. They figured this out when they were doing the Terminator movies. And the problem is when they made special effects, it was made with no film grain. So they actually went back and added film grain to their pictures. So you got a texture to it. So whenever I over retouch a photograph, I always put that grain in there. You can see it's not too much and just a little bit. What they did is they took all the CGI and ran it through an overlay of the Kodak film stock they were using to shoot it. And then it blended the real photograph in with the CGI created, and it looked like it was a real photograph. So this grain is being added to the entire photograph. So I made that background too smooth. As you can see, if I left it alone, that would just be too smooth, and she's got the grain in her still. Follow? So that's just a little retouching. And also the same with textures when you come to skin tone and stuff like that. So that's kind of a neat. Has anybody got any questions about this so far?
No.
Okay.
Just kind of taking it in.
Yeah. Yeah. So we've got, panoramic, HDR, body part separation down to the eyes, the foreground, the background. And the really spectacular thing about it is, guess what? It can actually add people. In fact, let me back up one step. I went too far ahead. You see how many people are in this picture?
Yep.
Each person can have separate hair, body, everything, even the background. I'm going to select all the people, and I'm going to select each one of their. Let me just do a couple here. I don't want to get too crazy, right? Let's do their hair and clothes. There we go. So it's going to create 4 separate masks with each person. Now I could, for each person, do them all separately. What I'm doing here, when I'm about to change their hair, is everybody's going to get the same hair treatment, which might not be a good thing. They all got blue hair. Okay, just for fun, I'm basically just showing what the possibilities are. Which one is this? That's body skin. Sure. Okay, I don't want to mess with their body skin too much. I think I don't want to mess with that. Let's see. Let's mess with. There was one for clothes, wasn't there? Oh, those are faces. I thought I did one for body skin, hair, clothes. There we go. Clothes. Okay. So they can all have a little bit darker clothes. Take the highlights down a little bit. And then I'm going to shift them over to a warmer color. So see, they go all wearing blue jeans now. And they're all jeans.
Yeah, it's cool though, right?
Yeah, right. And it's doing everybody at once. Okay, so now I got to create a new mask because that background is bugging the heck out of me. So look at how many. There's 5 people. Look how tight that selection is. You don't have any idea. Back in the day, there was no layers in Photoshop 1.0, by the way. That was an addition, came later, right? Yeah, John Knoll and Thomas Knoll, man. John worked for Industrial Light Magic, and Thomas's brother, wrote the code for this. And it basically was so they could make the Star Wars movie, so they didn't have to do everything practically. They could shoot the star field, and so they were actually using X-Acto knives to cut out each frame of film one at a time. And well, that's a whole nother thing. But let's go take a look at what we can do with this. So we got the background selected, and we want to take the clarity down, and we want to take the texture down, and look at how it's nice and out of focus, right? We don't want to go that direction. We just want to get a little bit of that. We might add a little bit of grain just to keep it all looking good, right? And then we could technically go down to and select the lens blur. However, so far, let's see how it does. I'm not going to promise anything because I don't want to promise and then not deliver on you here. Oh, it's working. It's working. I don't want to go too far with it. Let's give that nice little bokeh a nice little thing. So yeah, there you go. There you see the circles. So these are called circles of confusion. The word bokeh basically means out of focus. And when a picture's out of focus, that means that it's not within the depth of field. There's a primary focal point. That's these people, right? Everything before and in front, as you saw by the depth map, is something different. Now I can come in here and tweak this depth map a little bit. If I had the feet, if there was something coming forward, like a plant over here that was in front, we could sit there and do that. I could even go back and take this plant and, this bicycle tire here out of it by making a mask for that and blending it or whatever. But yeah, I mean, the power of this thing is just insane. So you can have a different shape. So you see just in a second here, I hope it's more hexagonal. So that means inside the lens, there's a shape. Most of them are circular inside the iris of a real lens on Nikon, Canon, etc., right? And then hexagonal, a lot of cameras have these multi-blade things that close up the hole, and you get a different look to it. And so the shape of the hole, usually the ones people really like and think that are pretty, especially if we did a nighttime picture with Christmas lights, that would be amazing. Yeah. And then you have some other ones that look like a little bit different.
Nice.
Cool.
All right. Yeah, some wonderful stuff. So
yeah,
Photoshop and Lightroom Magic.
And you just do this all day long and get these bros with the right t-shirts on, and then go put something on them and have some fun.
So yeah, so thanks everyone for watching. Let me let you know where you can follow us online. So first is you can find Rick. He has all of his links in one with the bit.ly M at Rick McCawley.
Yep.
And then once again, a reminder to subscribe for more of these AI art, digital art, Photoshop, and Lightroom focused live streams and tutorials. You can go to youtube.com/digitalartdrew. So that is Digital Art Drew at YouTube, youtube.com. Once again, Digital Art Drew on YouTube. Subscribe, watch all the lives, lots of them year after year. And then you can follow me on Facebook at my facebook.com/andrew.kavanagh. So I switched to professional mode and jumping in with all those posts. And then you can also follow my digital artist Andrew Kavanagh page on Facebook, facebook.com/digitalartistdrew. And you might have been watching this from one of the groups. If not, do check out and join the Photoshop and Lightroom group. We just passed 375,000 members.
Woo-hoo!
Facebook.com/groups/Photoshop Lightroom group, as well as the AI art and digital art group, facebook.com/groups, AI art digital art group. That passed about 35,000. I'd be happy if it even just got to 50,000.
Yeah, come join us. The water's nice. Now, just so you know, I have 50 years of photojournalism experience. I worked for the Miami Herald. I've been a photographer in fashion, every kind of way, written 38 books about the subject. So, I'm all about the traditional ways of doing stuff. And I hope that we're going to do even more Lightroom and Photoshop stuff, because both of us have expertise. And I would really highly recommend Andrew as a very patient tutor. So
That's right.
reach out to him to get some private tutoring.
Patience is the key.
What's that?
Patience is the key.
That's it. He's got a lot more than I do, but if you got some real like out there deep end stuff, photojournalism, that kind of stuff, give me a call too. I'm doing that sort of stuff and workshops for people. Both of us are more than happy to reach out and even team teach a class if you'd like. That'd be fantastic.
And
But
we'll keep
definitely
on,
join the groups because you can find out about stuff.
yeah, and we'll keep on doing these lives and bring our friends in like John Williams, and I think I'm going to be doing a live with Andrea Batslatson doing Adobe Express later on in this month. So so someone says from Facebook, thank you. And Maria says, great to see you. Thanks for all this class. Excellent one. And earlier on, Bruce had said, great stuff, guys. So yeah, it was a good session, great session. Lots of great tips and tricks. So watch it again and again, share it with your friends. Some great stuff for Photoshop and Lightroom. Thank you for joining us, and keep your eyes at the top of the groups, the top pin post for announcements for other live events, as well as sometimes contests and Adobe news and updates. Thanks,
Thank you so
everybody.
much. Be the light, everybody. Take care.
Thanks, everybody.